Thank you very much for joining us on the Voice of Job Seekers. We're back again with some more information to hopefully help you with your career search and your job search. We're recording this episode on April 3rd, 2017. This is the day before Don't Call It a Pay Gap Facebook Live hosted by Payscale. I wanted to support this event because it's a discussion about the issues faced daily by women. Cassidy Rush is campaign marketing manager for Payscale. Did I get that right, Cassidy?
Yeah, you did.
Okay, cool. And also, my friend, we are reviewing the discussion at large tomorrow. And every time I book a guest with Payscale, Cassidy is the one I often go through. And I definitely want to be sure to include her on this discussion as we talk about the event tomorrow and how important it is for many, many people, not just women, but men as well. Is there a double standard for women in workplace? Let me know what you think of one of three ways. You can leave a voicemail at 708-365-9822. You can go to voiceofjobseekers.com, press the send voicemail button on the right side of your screen and leave a message or activate your microphone immediately. So that's not a problem. Or you can send me an email at mark@thevoiceofjobseekers.com. And let's discuss a little bit, Cassidy, about the inspiration and the genesis behind the event tomorrow.
Yeah. So the story that many women and many men have been hearing over the last few years, and well, decade really, is just that, women aren't really paid the same as men, and that there's a huge gender wage gap, and that it keeps getting bigger and bigger. That's actually not the case anymore. The gender wage gap is actually kind of old news. When you control for things like education and experience and age, the gender wage gap is actually women earn 98 cents to every dollar a man makes. So it's not that there isn't a gender wage gap, but it is shrinking. But the thing that bothers me is that the new problem is that women are underrepresented in some of the highest paying jobs and also in management and leadership positions. Men are actually 85 times more likely to be in those positions over women. So what we're seeing is that men are being promoted at a higher rate than women, and that's a problem. And that's the message that we want to talk about at this event.
Now, just a little bit of background about Payscale to probably put it in a little bit of context. You guys use a number of surveys throughout the year and give people an estimated amount of how many people respond to the ones that are particularly gauging salary and how you guys come up with the conclusion and the numbers that you do.
Yeah. So for this particular survey, we surveyed over 1.8 million people. So we have a pretty rigorous data set, and we have an entire data team that is dedicated to kind of honing in on those numbers and making sure that everything's accurate and there's no crazy outliers within the data. So it's a pretty accurate set of data that we get to work with, which is really, really awesome.
Yeah. And, I very often get every time I've done a show about the pay gap or equal pay for the past 3 years, there's always somebody on Twitter and somebody on Facebook who wants to say that this pay gap doesn't exist, but yet what you're saying is that the 1.8 that respond to the survey, much less who it represents and how many millions it represents, they all can't be wrong.
Exactly. So, and yeah, to come back to those people, I mean, there is a pay gap. Women are only earning 98 cents to every dollar a man makes. I mean, in all senses, that is definitely a pay gap. And you can't really argue with the numbers, right?
Right. No, you can't, and no one really can't, but there's always those who will come back and say, well, I had somebody once say to me on Twitter, well, my wife looked at it and we decided there's not a pay gap. I'm going, okay, that's okay for you and your wife that it doesn't exist, but millions of people can't be wrong. and
Right.
there's too much evidence now where it is apparent and it is recognized even in our White House. And the question is whether who wants to do something really significant about it still kind of
Mhm.
remains unknown.
Mhm.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah, so there's a hashtag behind the event, and I believe it's Resting Biz Face. And this is a
Mhm.
G-rated show, so we'll keep it. People can guess where the the idea actually comes from, but
Mhm.
there's a story behind that hashtag, isn't there?
Yeah. Women in the workplace, we're often people will come up to us, often men. They'll look down at you at your desk and they'll say, "Well, why aren't you smiling?" And for me, who I'm somebody who has had that happen to them, it's like I don't owe you a smile. I'm here to work and I'm here to get work done. I'm not bossy. I'm busy.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the basis for this hashtag, is just to kind of flip that notion on its side and to help empower women to be busy, because we are busy and we just don't owe anybody a smile at work. We're here to get stuff done, just like you, just like everyone else.
Right.
Because often nobody's going to go up to a man and ask him to smile more, right?
Right. No, I'd never been asked, or why am I not smiling? And if I was
And if
smiling,
somebody did,
well, yeah, well, I have another set of issues, and you and I have talked about before, but
mhm,
I think there's a perception that, and there's, as a recovering chauvinist myself, uh, it is a perception that we want women in this particular space, which really there is no space that a woman should exactly be in except the one that she creates for herself and that she's earned.
mhm,
So I can definitely understand, and it was great to see that too. I kind of automatically knew what it meant, but to read
mhm,
how it came about, I love it. I love the aspect that women should not have to be complacent with a specific role just for somebody's expectations, for sure. So here's a tougher question, though, and I think you saw my Facebook page last night as I
mhm.
posed an idea, and I won't go into the idea, but how can men have a role in this discussion of equal pay? I think there's some women who feel like, and there's some men who feel like that men shouldn't have anything to say because they're so biased. But at the same time, there's some of us that actually want to be a catalyst for change and want to promote change and be helpful. So, how can men have a role in this universal discussion?
Yeah, I would say that like the number one thing that men can do is to be an advocate for women. So, in your workplace, when you have a woman on your team that you feel is underlooked or isn't being treated or getting the pay that she deserves in any sense, I mean, you can be her advocate and you can advocate for her to her manager, to the CEO, to anyone in the company that it's going to matter. And even just having a man step up and kind of take on that role can empower, the entire team. Once somebody else sees it happening, other people are more encouraged to do the same thing, and it kind of becomes contagious.
Sure.
Um, Another thing that people can do, men can do, is just really just to educate themselves and understand that there is an issue, and that just being on the opposite end of that party, they just have an opportunity to make a difference.
Right. So, should men be whistleblowers when it comes to salary?
Oh, absolutely. I think that, yeah, when, just like in any other situation in the office, when you see something going on and you see somebody getting undercut or something, you want to speak up and you want to have that transparency there, right? Because that fosters an entire culture of transparency and understanding, which I think is just makes it more positive for everybody involved.
Oh, absolutely. So, with men being whistleblowers, would that be one of the things that will kind of change the trajectory of, we've heard the years of saying that women, it may take them till 2040 to really get equal pay. Will whistleblowing be one of the things that will change the game?
I don't know if it's going to be whistleblowing that's going to change the game. I think it's just going to be that internal advocacy and, going from the top level down of management, right?
Mm-hmm.
If the CEO of your company feels empowered to help advocate for women within the organization and you're getting more women up on your leadership boards, that's a step in the right direction. I think that's going to be what's going to make a big change in the long run is
Yeah.
from the organizational perspective.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else that we should know about the event that we should look forward to tomorrow in the discussion about the pay gap and the actual day is Equal Pay Day? So I know there's a number of events that are going on, but particularly your Facebook Live will have 3 panelists on it. Correct?
It will. Our panel is going to include Christy Johnson, and she's the CEO of a company called Artemis Connection.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have Peter Hamilton, and he is the CEO of Tune. And we're going to have Elizabeth Weingarten, who is the director of the Global Gender Parity Initiative at New America.
Oh, very good.
And they're going to be there on the panel. They're going to be answering questions from the audience, and we're going to have that broadcasted. And for people watching online who can't actually be here, you're more than welcome to submit some questions, and we'd love to get those answered for you. And anybody who wants to submit us their resting biz face and send us a photo, we're going to retweet that, and we're just going to love it.
Well, how can people participate in the discussion, whether they are tuning in live or whether they're going to be listening to it on demand somewhere?
Just submit us questions. Any kind of questions you have, tweet at us, tweet at Payscale, or just put a comment in the discussion thread on the Facebook Live video that'll be going tomorrow at 11 a.m. PST. I know you guys are in Central Time, though, right?
Right. Well, yeah. I'm in Central Time.
Mm-hmm. So any kind of questions that get submitted, we're going to get those answered for you, and we're really looking forward to it.
Awesome. Now, should people follow the Resting Biz Face hashtag for
yes.
a complete discussion, and they can look that up via Twitter and Facebook as well?
Mm-hmm. That is correct.
Okay, excellent. Well, Cassidy Rush, content marketing manager for Payscale, thank you very much for joining us here on the Voice of Job Seekers. The rest of you, thank you for joining us. Next week, we will have a special show with Mark Miller, my friend, and he'll be discussing his new book. In the meantime, we will see you then.